Hello, and welcome to a new edition of Political Smackdown. Have our usual crew here today, and their names will be under it, and we'll just go right into the questions and get started. We had a rather large event in western North Carolina this week politically. 11th District second-term Congressman Chuck Edwards withdrew his name from the ballot for the fall. He will continue to serve his term. This is the result of a many months long investigation into him, and the House Ethics Committee, which is the only truly bipartisan committee. They have an equal number of Democrats and Republicans, so it takes some from both parties to recommend that they have any censure. And so the House Ethics Committee has recommended that he be censured, that is Congressman Edwards. He is under investigation and has been for allegations of sexual harassment and creating a hostile work environment. And he engaged, they say, allegedly in sexual harassment in violation of the House Code of Official Conduct by basically sending gifts to and having sexual harassment or sexual innuendo to two young female staffers. They do say there is no incidence of an actual sexual relationship, but that his conduct was unbecoming and in violation. The Republican GOP and the 11th District's Executive Committee only has until September the 3rd to put someone on the ballot. Well, Andy, there it is. The 11th District is in kind of purple on the left-hand side, and the other competitive district is number 1, which is in kind of a different purple on the right-hand side at the coast. And that brings this into play. It's an R+4 district according to Civitas, but Edwards won it by 14 points in 24, and he won it by 9 points in 22. And if y'all remember, in the Republican primary, he defeated Madison Cawthorn, our infamous one, that's now in Florida running for Congress, believe it or not. So Andy, get us started. What do you think is going on? And does you've got Jamie Yeager, who has raised much more money than Edwards had. So the Republicans are going to have to figure out who they're going to nominate. Rumor has it might be a guy named Tim Moffitt, who's in the General Assembly now. Could be somebody else, but they're on a short fuse both for name recognition and money to be competitive.
Well, here's the thing I would say. I wouldn't be bragging about beating Cawthorn because I think I could have run my dog and beat him. He was such a train wreck, it wasn't even funny. But, you know, there's two things that they tell you when you're elected and you're in. And I would imagine for Congress would be the same as it was in the General Assembly. You keep your pants pulled up and your hands to yourself. You don't mess with the staff.
And you don't give gifts to single 20-something-year-old staffers, right?
No, you do
not the kind of gifts he apparently
No,
gave.
you do not. Now, you know, if you want to give somebody something on a birthday or maybe Christmas, something like that. But this was he was trolling for a girlfriend. That's what he was doing. And this is an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment for the Republican Party. It's an embarrassment for the people of that district. You don't think about a grown man like that that's elected to Congress that would behave such a way. But it seems like, Wes, there's a bunch of them that do that, unfortunately. I don't know what's wrong with them. But I think that this is a true chance of flipping this because Mr. Yeager is I think about a third generation politician around. He's got name ID in that area. The money has flowed to him unbelievably because I think that the Democratic committee smells blood in the water. So, and come to find out,
the guy they've got running, Jamie Yeager, he's not a far left Democrat. He's a center left Democrat.
He will run very well in that district.
Well, Wes, as if Republicans didn't have enough headwinds in North Carolina this year in the General Assembly, in the congressional races, now this.
Yeah, it's certainly going to have an impact. I think it's now considered a toss-up race, and you're right, Yeager. His grandfather was congressman from that district, so certainly a network of support there. Andy, to your point, Edwards had not done a good job raising money thus far. He was already way behind. So he's doing a bad job, was doing a bad job fundraising, and Ager has done a good job fundraising, which I think puts even more pressure on the executive committee to pick a candidate that can catch up that fundraising and have the name ID. I think Senator Moffitt is the most likely pick, at least from where I am. I've not talked to anybody up there. I don't have any inside information. Ralph Heiss would be another one that would be on the short list, but I would be surprised if he's interested. I think at the end of the day, the Republican wins in a much tighter race than it should be, but given everything going on, particularly in Iran, that's going to be a tough one to call right up till the end. I do think it's interesting that when Edwards announced he was dropping out of the race, it was through a tweet at 3 o'clock in the morning, Betsy.
I thought that was interesting too. Obviously, maybe it was his conscience that kept him up that night, late at night. What do you think? It's just amazing to me that you've got a man, or it could be even a woman, but a man in that position with that being elected by all those people. And here he is showing up at his staffers, unannounced at his staffer's door, those young ladies, buying them vacations, jewelry, dinners, sending them gifts. And even though they said that there wasn't anything sexual that they could find, but it just made them uncomfortable. One of them was a 19-year-old intern. Another one, though, had worked for him when he was in the state government. It's just, and you know, Jamie Ager, I mean, this is a great candidate to run for Congress up there in the western part of the state. I had worked, when I was District 10 chair, I worked closely with him in his reelection, his family. And I think, and I agree with you, Andy, this is a chance for the Democrats to take that seat, and I think the DNC had better pour in a lot of money.
Let me just mention briefly before we move on what censure means. It's a punishment of last resort in Congress. It's short of forcing somebody out. It admonishes them for something that is perceived as a serious wrongdoing and informs the public of formal disapproval of the wrongdoing. It's basically an official reprimand or judgment with condemnation and does not force them out. So he wasn't legally forced out for misconduct. He voluntarily went. However, Senator Budd, the junior senator from North Carolina, he called for it the day before he did it. And it's not all that unusual in recent years. Y'all know who the last person to be censured was? Al Green from Texas, who got beat in his primary this year whenever he stood up and yelled obscenities about Donald Trump in 2025 at the State of the Union.
I think he shook his walking stick at
I
him.
think it did.
And others are Paul Gosar, and one everybody's heard of, Adam Schiff in 2023 was reprimanded by the, censured, by the House. Rashida Tlaib, one of the AOC crowd, she also was censured for promoting false narratives, and a guy named Jamal Bowman, who forced the evacuation of the House office building and disrupted the work of Congress as the vote was underway. So it's not all that uncommon anymore, unfortunately.
And it's not always sexual.
That's right. Those are not sexual.
It's just misconduct.
Well, it's a regretful thing from the Republican side, but it might turn out good in the end because it's very unlikely he could have won given this censure, it seems to me. Well, let's move to another subject before we go to break. I'm going to start out with a rhetorical question, my fellow Democrat, my Democrats. You're not fellow Democrats because I don't think I am one.
I didn't know if you were going to make an announcement or not.
Is the Big Ten of the Democratic Party they're so proud of on fire? And isn't it, if so, illustrated by what happened in Michigan, among other places this year? There you see the 10 on fire.
Me. The picture came down.
A DSA, or Democrat Socialist of America candidate, Abdul El Sayed, is moving the party toward the socialist side. He says he's not a socialist, but he takes a lot of the views. He wants immigration enforcement done away with. He's for a lot of things, Andy, on the far, far left, and he just has now created that question of, can the Republican candidate One of y'all tell me his name. I've got it
He's a
somewhere.
Rogers, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, the
Mike
Republican candidate ran in the primary did not have a primary. There was no Republican opposition. Of course, this was brought about as an open seat because of the retirement of the incumbent Democratic senator. But Andy, if Michigan's a swing state, Trump's won it 2 of the last 3 elections, and
Not by a lot, but he
not
has
by a
won.
lot, but he has won it. So in a Midwestern state, this is not New York or California. This is a swing state.
Yep.
And it's a statewide race. So does this put that into play, just the opposite of what Edwards puts in play in North Carolina?
Well, comrade, I'm not sure. To be honest, but I mean, when you get down to it, this is going to be kind of the litmus test about how the voters are thinking. If I really don't know that they're ready to take this on for their senator, I just, as a Democrat socialist, I mean, or if he's not espousing to be one, at least he is
close.
their beliefs
Yeah.
and stuff. I don't know. I don't know enough about the Republican gentleman to be able to say how good he would be or not be. But this is one I'm going to watch very closely on election night, because this is really going to tell the tale of the tape exactly where voters in the Midwest, which tracks a lot like we are in North Carolina in a lot of ways. So we'll see, and it's going to be interesting.
He only
night.
won in the Democratic primary by 1 percentage point,
1%.
14,000 and some odd votes. I have a hard time believing in the general he can win, but I could be wrong. Betsy, what say you?
Well, I was just going to say that he only won by that 1%. And I thought that his opponent would probably win out, so I was disappointed there. I didn't think he would win. He is not, even though you showed a picture of the Democratic Socialists of America, he is not a member. He has said that, and he rejects the socialist label. But I know that all the words that come down from above from the National Republican Party, communism, socialism, and we're all going to talk about the far left wing of the party, and we'll just see how this plays out. I think the voters in Michigan has given us a message that, it may be more prominent maybe in some states, and it depends on what's going on in that state about the economy. How much is gasoline? And so I was surprised that he won, but we'll just see how it plays out.
One thing, Mike, before you go to the West, the thing that you need to remember, Poland had him beating her in double digits. Right up to
and
election
then he barely
day.
won.
And now he just barely scraped across the finish line.
Now that's a red flag
It is to me.
for the general election. Wes?
Well, Mike, with candidates like Biden and Harris and Waltz and Warren, it's no wonder that a lot of young people are looking for something different, even if the DSA is only a few degrees different. By the way, Pocahontas was in North Carolina campaigning for
Roy
Roy
Cooper.
Cooper this week. One of the interesting things in this race in Michigan, and we see this across the board when we have these DSA candidates, and in all the polling, it's not the working class that are their base voter that they supposedly are appealing to. It's almost exclusively the academics and the white collar that are supporting this more radical agenda. The good news, I think, for the Democrats is that there's a moderate group called the Third Way. They've committed $15 million campaign to counter this DSA influence. So, Betsy, it is real, and some more thoughtful Democrats are trying to raise money to counter this. But if the Democrats don't get in charge of this, DSA is going to have their tentacles very deep, and this philosophy is going to take over that party even more so than it has.
Wes. I
thought I
cannot
was very
believe you
complimentary.
sat there and called Kamala Harris Pocahontas.
I did, and I called Elizabeth Warren
That was
Pocahontas.
Elizabeth Warren.
That's right. But why do you
Warren.
call those people that when
I think
those
it's,
labels?
I think
I
she's
think
the one that
that's-
claimed to be an
it's-
She
Indian.
claimed to have been
Oh,
Indian,
but-
and she got some favors
But you
financially and
don't have to call
education
her
because she's had
Pocahontas.
Indian
You just don't
background
have
of
to do
1% or
But
less.
name
No.
calling like that.
Well,
really
No,
if
that-
Senator Warren
you're
is
above
watching,
that.
I apologize.
All right, let's move on to the break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about a couple local issues related to the justice centers and the school system.
Join us for our 24th season of Armchair Quarterback on C19 TV. Each week we look at the 4A Burns Bulldogs, the 5A Crest Chargers, the 6A Kings Mountain Mountaineers, and the 3A Shelby Golden Lions. We will also discuss ACC, SEC, and Gardner-Webb football, along with the Carolina Panthers. Armchair Quarterback premieres August 17th on C19 TV and online at c19.tv.
Welcome back to Political Smackdown. Over the last week or two, there has been some exposure of two issues that have created some conversation on social media locally and on the Shelby Independent. There have been a couple of articles and editorials. First, real quickly, talk about last month when they had one of their committee meetings at the school system. They were told, the school board people were, by their staff, that $500,000 had been removed from their operating budget and the county budget this year, that the two previous years had gone at the request of the school system to the operating budget of the schools. Apparently that request was not made this year, and so there was a $500,000 cut to the operating budget. The county basically has responded to some degree. Wes, get us started on this one and tell us what does that really mean? Is it a big deal or not such a big deal?
Well, I guess it depends on whether you're on the school board or not, apparently. You know, the $1 million a couple years ago was put into the school budget as a non-recurring windfall. It was put in this past year, again, as non-recurring money. And then this year, the county split that money, $500,000 in operations and $500,000 in capital, to help save for potential building expenses that the school board may have. I really don't think it's a big deal. The quote that I read suggested that it was going to cost the school potentially cost them jobs. If it was non-recurring money, I don't see how it would cost jobs unless it was being used for recurring costs.
Well, it said that would be 2 years from now, so there's also time to correct that.
But we've got this year's budget to cover it. But there's a lot we don't know about this. I think we'll find out more as time goes on.
Betsy, what say you?
Well, it's always hard when for the school system to lose the money. And you know, with the fact that I know they're adjusting to the fact that they did not realize that the state budget was going to give so much money to beginning year teachers, which I know for them is good. It's just an adjustment period, but I just think they could have found the money somewhere else in all the budget that they've done if they would look closer. And they had a hearing about this budget, but David Cotton did not bring up that the school system was going to lose $500,000. So the public did not know this until it got into this meeting. I just wish they could have found the money somewhere else.
Well, it terminated as it was supposed to. But
Yeah, if I had non-recurring money in your budget at the state level, I believe I'd be asking for it if I wanted it to recur again. Andy, what do you say?
And maybe they will.
Well, and that's the way some of the stuff has to be. It's just like years ago when all of the area mental health departments merged. And they came to me and said, we need $8 million to try to get everything together, to get on the same computers, get everything together. And I got it made recurring. And because of that, and that's what you do. If you've got ongoing issues like that, now whether it's still there, I don't know. But you've got to make sure, if you're going to have something recurring cost, you've got to make sure the funds are coming. And it's like Wes said, if it appears that it wasn't meant to be recurring, that it was for a short time, And yes, I mean, $500,000 seems to be a lot of money, but folks, there's nothing more convoluted than a school system's budget. It is, you've got money drawing down from Washington on down, and this goes to that, and that goes to this, and it's so complicated unless you're delved into it every day working with it. It's a mystery. I mean, it really is. I hate to say that, but it is.
And very quickly, Mike, I just want to add, as always, the state budget is approved after the county budget. So later this fall, the county, as they always do, will make a budget amendment based on the state budget on the school needs, the per diem and supplement.
Yep. Well, let's move on quickly so we can get through everything today. The larger issue, and I think there'll be a lot more to drop about this in the next week or two. I know questions have been asked by other media than the Shelby Independent. I don't know when any other stories will drop or how the county may further respond, but a big deal has been made over the fact that there are several $1 million worth of new fixtures, furniture, and equipment that are going to go into the new courthouse, and that's raised questions as to the price. Things have been mentioned, and you can't, this is undeniable. There's like several $7,000 desks for judges' chambers, $3,500 desks for some other places. There's a $1,400 trash can, and that is a lot, but it is a certain kind of trash can with locks on it so it can be secure in the courthouse and people couldn't put something that shouldn't be there and come back and get it out to use it later for an ill purpose. That kind of stuff's not been talked about publicly yet. But Andy, it still sounds bad when you say there's somewhere, depending on how you add it up, whether you include IT or just FF&E or fixtures, furniture, and equipment, between 4.6 and about 7.7 million total going in IT plus furniture and so forth in there. It does sound like a lot, but what say you?
Well, it does sound a lot, and I appreciate you clearing up about the trash can, because I kept wondering about that. That makes sense. I mean, I can kind of get by. I would hope they could do it a little cheaper than that, but at least I understand there is a security problem that solves.
It's not one like you could go to Office Max or Staples and buy today.
Right, no, you could. But I just can't believe that every bit of stick of furniture and over across the street is in such a dilapidated shape, they can't move it to the new Justice Center. And I know everybody wants a new desk, a new chair, new buildings going, but the taxpayers are thinking about, does a judge need a $7,000 desk? I would probably say probably not.
Well, and you know, there's just no way to justify in the public mind the price of what this stuff on state contract costs. Some of the questions, Wes, that need to be still answered, I still think we need more answers from the county, is was there bids and was there other bids that were turned down and you finally got down to this, or was this the only one? You just signed off on it. And apparently, to be clear, the board did not know about this until the public knew about it pretty much, because when they do these big things and they're all on state contract, they're just there and they're in the bigger budget for the whole Justice Center, and you don't generally see them questioned. And I'd be willing to bet that in most counties that have built courthouses in the last several years, and there are a few, Cabarrus County's the closest, I guess, you probably would find the same thing if you went into them. That doesn't justify the pricing if it could be better, but it is at least a point to note. Wes?
Well, commissioners don't pick out the brand of carpet in the building. They don't pick out the brand of paint on the wall. They don't pick out the chairs or the desk. This comes back to the county manager. I think the manager who did sign off on these purchases will have to explain some of this stuff, Andy. I think there's some very legitimate questions here that'll have to be explained, and we're running short on time, but bottom line, I think we're going to learn more about this as we go on. Ultimately, these budgets are typically based on a formula of square footage. We'll see what comes out in the next week or two.
Betsy, as quickly as you can.
Just that, how much damage could be done to a desk that could not be moved?
And that's another
I mean,
question
seriously.
is, what's going to happen to all the furniture in the existing courthouse and register of deeds? And there are other questions out there. Folks, we're pretty sure we'll be talking about this as more comes out in weeks to come. Last week, and finally and quickly, Anthony Fauci, the czar of COVID, pled the Fifth Amendment 111 times last week, refusing to answer questions of the Congressional Committee. He has now been cited for contempt of Congress, and they're asking the Justice Department to not allow him to do this. He had a full federal pardon for a good number of years, or anything even he might have done. Even when he was asked the color of his tie, he took the Fifth Amendment. When he was asked what day of the week it was, he took the Fifth Amendment. Betsy, can you defend Anthony Fauci on some of that?
I think Dr. Fauci has been called before and asked these same questions. I want to know, he did a journal. How did that journal get in the hands of Senator Paul? And he didn't publish it.
It was a public record. It was on public equipment.
It was on public equipment, so it's a public record.
So they went after his documents.
They read his documents, and he was telling the public how dangerous it was, and he was telling his friends something entirely different at the time that we were in lockdown, and he was the one behind it, Andy.
We'll just see. We'll just see what happens. Y'all have been after him ever since COVID.
Well, I think it's obvious that Rand Paul is wanting to put his head on a spike.
Yep.
But when you get down to it, he made a terrible, egregious error to put something like a personal journal on a publicly owned computer. It's ridiculous, and that's why it's coming back on him.
Wes?
Well, his comments speak for himself. I'm glad that Dr. Fauci finally found the Constitution, but I'll just say this and leave it there. Pleading the Fifth after a pardon is sort of like wearing a mask after a vaccination.
All right, let's go to the lightning round, Andy.
Well, everybody needs to be careful. School is starting back Wednesday, so by all means, watch out for the school buses. Look out for the kids that are waiting on the school bus, and be nice to the folks in the car rider line. Sometimes they can't, don't blow your horn, because sometimes they've got to take their little kid in. So it'll be great.
Wes?
Like 2 weeks ago, Betsy gave us the definition of socialism: government ownership of the means of production. Last week, the Commerce Department announced that letters of intent have been signed in which the government will take an equity stake in 7 companies. This brings us to at least 30 individual companies which the Trump administration has taken at least partial ownership. This, by definition, is socialism. Ronald Reagan isn't resting in peace. It's time for the GOP to wake up and push back.
Well, Betsy, Wes probably had one you liked. Go ahead.
You can say amen.
Amen. And during this week, I was watching TV, and they were interviewing, I guess it was voters in Michigan, at the gas pumps. And there was this woman there that was crying, brought to tears by talking about the increase in petroleum and how she couldn't meet her bills because of the economy. And I noticed she had a Trump sticker on her car. Since taking office, Trump's net worth has tripled, growing from $2.3 billion in 2024 to nearly $7 billion, an increase in every day. United States is not a family business, but Trump and his family are getting richer, and the working people are getting poorer.
Well, folks, there you have it, and very quickly I'll tell you that the HOA I've been on that got the money in the state budget had it taken out this week, and it was given to Harnett County for any public purpose. Join us next week for another edition of Political Smackdown.